Have you experienced a narcissist rage? Like, not just anger, not just irritation, but actual rage. Like when the pupils dilate, when they almost look like completely black, and you could swear to death that, like, this is a demon staring you straight in the face because of the absolute sheer rage that's coming out from them. Have you ever wondered if there's like a deeper explanation for seemingly like demonic behavior of how it can transform so much? There's a piece that happens when you're dealing with a narcissist in a toxic relationship where that anger gets to such a point that the rage seems to disrupt how they actually look, how they talk, how they feel, and it seems like this person might even be possessed by a demon. The black eyes take over and the rage seems uncontrollable. I want to talk to you today and diving into the world of narcissistic rage, explore the reasons behind the dark outbursts of being with a narcissist and how they're responding to this piece of anger, to the aspect of rage. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness about narcissistic abuse. I'm the founder of Raw Motivations, the creator of the NARC app, and your guide in the 45-day Clarity Challenge you can access at claritychallenge.net. So wait for you to be able to break free of the trauma bond, the rumination, the triggers that you're feeling, and have actionable items in your hand to be able to process on a day-to-day basis of how to break free, of how ultimately to be the person that you're called to be, regardless of the toxicity that the narcissist put on you. Well, when we talk about this piece of narcissism and anger, they typically go hand in hand. Like, a lot of times you will see this. Now, you might have a covert narcissist where you don't see this as much. You see more of the subtle, passive-aggressive, like toxic behaviors, the aspect of where they're giving you the silent treatment, the aspect of where they're not really communicating, they're kind of pulling back, they're saying everything's fine, but you know it's not fine, and you can feel the rage. You can feel it like simmer in one sense. We're not talking about that today, okay? But what we're talking about is narcissists that have that extreme rage. Rage where it seems to change their facial expressions, change their eyes, all these different things. And this is where we see narcissistic rage where it oftentimes gets labeled as like, hey, this is demonic. Okay? Now, there's that possibility. Now, it could be demons. But there's also the possibility of this person not getting what they want and having this extreme piece come out. Now, do I believe that demons exist? Yes. Okay? So everybody knows I believe they exist. Do I believe that all narcissists are demons? No. I think that that's a blanket statement that honestly doesn't serve it justice at all. I think the majority of narcissists are consumed with themselves and themselves only. That's not of itself demonic. That's of itself extremely selfish. You put someone who's extremely selfish with no morals, no values, no compass, and watch what happens. Everything runs amok. Because at that point, anything is possible. They can do whatever they want. That's the thought process. That's the idea. That's where I kind of land with that. So hopefully it doesn't ruin the rest of this, but just wanted to be upfront and tell you this is what I think. Okay. So when we talk about narcissistic rage, it's intense. Sometimes it's completely unpredictable and it just flies off the handle and comes out of nowhere. And it's an anger that narcissists display when oftentimes their fragile self-ego is threatened. So like, I would touch into this aspect of anger the most when I was threatened. Now, you're like, what does threatened actually look like? Is someone going to like harm you? No. When I was threatened of being exposed, when I was threatened with the possibility of shame. You see, shame is a big piece that compels a lot of narcissistic behavior, the avoidance of it. So like if I felt like I was going to get shame or feel shame or I could see it bubbling up based on someone holding me accountable, an easy thing to do would be rage. Now that rage would go from irritation to anger to this excessive rage where it almost would be like the person would black out. Like where I would black out and not know, but I knew. Like it's hard to be able to explain. It's almost like for a moment, it's almost like you're not in control, but you're in control. It's almost like you're sitting to the side and co-piloting and watching the rest of your body move. That's kind of what it feels like. I'm not saying that to excuse their behavior. It's wrong. It's bad. Like, it's awful. Okay? And people can learn how to control it. So don't take that as like a blanket of like, oh, he said. Okay. So narcissistic rage, like this whole piece of like it comes out in full force when it's getting close to exposure. Okay, exposure for a narcissist, the vulnerability, the honesty, the truthfulness, that feels like death a lot of times because you're exposing a part of them that they want to hide, that they want to say, hey, this is incongruent with the mask that I've been putting out there. I got to be able to run away from it. Now, this rage, oftentimes running away from this fragile self-ego, this rage can get directed to anyone. Oftentimes it's directed to the partner. Sometimes it can be directed overtly to everybody. Because when it seems like there's a threat to their image and to their control, it rages out. Think of it this way. Maybe you're at the place where your husband's talking about work and frustrated about something at work, and you just suggest like, well, hey, did you try this? Or like, here's a new approach you could do. And in response, he explodes in anger, belittling you for daring to question his expertise, making you feel like you're the stupidest person in the world because you even said something or because you even had an idea, never validating your feelings or ideas or even the thought or even the suggestion, but instead just rages out at you. Okay, because in that moment, one, you might have brought up something that was completely valid, and he's like, crap, why didn't I think of that? That invokes shame. Okay, so rage. Or you might have brought something up that he didn't want to hear because whether it was right or wrong, he wasn't willing to accept another person's opinion. Because if you gave your opinion, that comes across as criticism, which comes across as attack, which brings about shame that there's something actually wrong there. It's kind of circular in reasoning, but this is how the mind works. So the narcissist rages back out at you. So the whole aspect of like, if I rage, I can get control over the situation. If I rage, I can get manipulation back where I'm in control. Okay, so you see the eyes start to change. Like you see like the pupils dilate to a place where it seems like there's no color in the eye at all, but it's purely demonic. Like it's pure rage that's coming out. And this piece gets you subservient very quickly. Now, can all narcissists turn it off, turn it on, turn it off? Not necessarily. But when it's provoked to a place, not by you, but by them, okay, provoked to a place of like, I have to run away from this shame, have to run away from this exposure, I don't know what to do. It's almost like a panic that happens in a sheer instant and then rage. Think of it this way of like, you're calling out a narcissist and he's getting exposed in his lies. One of the easiest things to do for him is to rage out, right? And it's because if for a brief second as you're calling him out, his mind's like freaking out, like, I don't know how I get out of this. And there's almost like a freeze for a moment of like, what do I do? How do I get out of this situation? How do I have to spin the story, tell it differently, like lie a certain way, do this, do that? How do I get out of this? And there's not a good way out. Because the way out of that situation where they lied or where they cheated or whatever might have happened, there's not a good way out except for the truth. So instead of embracing the truth, because that would release shame, instead of owning up to the truth, because that would be showing that they were guilty, instead of being accountable, because that would show their responsibility of how they showed up, they rage. And this extreme behavior of rage is meant to intimidate and instill fear and get you to conform to what the narcissist wants you to do. So, like, think of this of you say how you want to spend time with friends. You plan like a ladies' night and you go to your husband and you tell him like, hey, this is what's happening. And he gets rageful. And he starts to blow up. And you're just like, I just was going to go plan a date night with my friends. And then the violent outburst leaves you feeling trapped and leaves you fearful in the relationship. So as a result, you're like, you know what? The last time I asked him, he got upset. So I'm not going to talk to him this time. I'm not going to go out. I'll just stay in. It'll be fine. And you start to limit yourself. You start to work on boxing yourself in, caging yourself from how the other person is going to react and your responsibility of how they react, thinking that that's all on you. That you are responsible for the rage, so you have to do things to avoid the rage so that you aren't a bad wife or a bad spouse that's making him rage. It's not your job. It's not your responsibility to manage his feelings. But he'll make you feel that way. And what he'll do is he'll project that onto you, distorting your reality, making you feel their own insecurities, their own guilt, their own inner turmoil, and putting that on you. This aspect of dealing what's inside, a narcissist won't typically do that at all because it takes honesty and vulnerability. But instead, internally, I refuse to acknowledge this, so I'm going to lash out at you. I'm going to blame you. I'm going to rage out at you. I'm going to put anything I can towards you so I don't have to be accountable. Have you been at the place where he's accused you of cheating, being unfaithful? There's no evidence. There's nothing that actually gives it validity. But he's saying, like, you spent an extra 10 minutes at the grocery store. What were you doing cheating? Like, it doesn't look like you went for a hike because your shoes are clean. So what were you actually doing? You were cheating on me, weren't you? Oftentimes projecting onto you his own cheating, his own infidelity, and wanting you to cheat to further justify him, to break up the relationship and all these different things, but using the rage throughout it to deflect you from actually seeing his actions. Just like a lot of things in narcissism, rage is another tool to be able to distract you from the truth. If a narcissist can distract you from the truth long enough, you'll stay stuck. And you'll start to believe an alternate version of reality. You start to believe a different story than what's actually being told to you. This is the piece that you need to understand. Being with a narcissist will continue to make you feel crazy over and over and over. And they'll continue to rage out at you to get power and control over you. If you're struggling with this and you feel crazy and you're like, I don't know what's actually true. He says he loves me, but he keeps raging out at me. Please reach out for help. We want to be able to help support you in your healing journey. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, you can go to rawmotivations.com. We'd love to help and support you there. If we can be a help as you move forward just in the courses and the challenges that we put together, you can go to claritychallenge.net. And if this video is helpful, then click on any of the other videos on the screen to help you step forward in your healing journey.